Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Jeanette Potts and I'm Brand Marketing Lead at Isobar Switzerland. I'll shortly introduce our two experts, but first of all, this is a really exciting day for us. It's actually our first joint webinar of Isobar and Merkel. We will soon become Merkel in the DACH region. So that's Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. A couple of things before we go ahead today. A couple of housekeeping tips. This session will actually be recorded. It will be shared with you. So don't worry if you don't catch everything. Please ask questions as we go along in the chat. We will do our very best to answer your questions either today in this session, or we will also follow up separately with you. Also, great opportunity via the expert hour, which we'll cover at the very end. So let's kick off. I'm delighted to welcome our two experts. Benjamin Adler, Lead Experience Designer at Namics. Good morning, Benjamin.
Hi.
Where are you today, Benjamin? Let us know where you are today.
I'm in Zurich today.
Fantastic. And Luis Nunes, Head of Digital Experience at Isobar Switzerland in Geneva. Good morning, Luis.
Morning, everyone. Nice to be here. I'm in the outskirts of Geneva, but very happy to be here as well.
Fantastic. So yeah, as I said, it's really exciting that we have our first joint webinar with everyone. So thank you all for joining us today. Let's get started. Just of all, if we think first of all about last year and e-commerce, I mean, it was a really unprecedented year in terms of e-commerce, very unique. I think we saw about 10 years growth in the space of 3 months, based on all the data and everything that took off. What should we, and all e-commerce players, brands, e-retailers, what should we watch out for now in 2021? Luis, Benjamin, what are your thoughts on this topic?
Well, from my side, actually, I think that 2021 has a lot of possibilities, but I am expecting it to be, if you want, the continuation of something that isn't really groundbreaking or even potentially new, except for the intensity. And that is the fact that there is this generalized acknowledgement that the commerce in itself has basically just leapfrogged out of the stores, right? Of course, the pandemic helped in terms of making access to the physical stores a little bit harder, but even for those that had already started this journey of opening up their digital stores, it's also a reality that now everyone is realizing that commerce is actually always on thing, and therefore the complexity is much higher, and at the same time also much more exciting, right? So for our customers and for us, it's a wonderful opportunity, and that would probably be my pick among all of those out there.
Oh, fantastic. And Benjamin, what are your thoughts?
I really think that data or customer data is going to be your fuel for your commerce experience in 2021, or well, in 2021, even more than already before. And I believe, and that's the trend I'm going to talk about, you should design your commerce experiences for data maximization. Generally, what Luis and I want to pitch today is that we really believe it takes a certain mindset to set yourself and your e-commerce activities apart from the competition. And if you really want to transform the commerce experience that you're offering to your customers from, let's say, good to better or even best, then we believe you need to focus on 2 things. So firstly, as Luis said, hey, don't box your e-commerce activities into a silo, but understand that every interaction, no matter the channel with your customers, is part of their commerce experience. And you should really try to make every interaction contextually relevant for your customers. And maybe that means that you need to personalize that experience to make it relevant. And secondly, as I said, we believe you should design your commerce experiences for data maximization. So that means that you take a very strategic approach to data collection, data analysis, and data activation. So to sum up, we think those are the two things that you should take away from this webinar and into 2021. Don't silo your e-commerce activities and design for data maximization.
Fantastic. Thank you. If we could just move ahead to the next slide, please. We'll cover off some of these key topics we've been talking in more detail. So first of all, Luis and Benjamin, you've been talking about us seeing a very, very different commerce experience, combining data and technology. This will really bring a lot of insights to brands, customers, and e-retailers. Can you give examples of how this would actually come to life for the customer and how we could actually envisage seeing this?
Well, I think I can actually share a little bit of around that. If we recover exactly the formula that we believe is the success formula that Benny just highlighted, right? And essentially what I presented earlier on about the fact that commerce is jumping out of that silo that was previously the store and becoming an all-encompassing relationship, right? I think that most of us are realizing that at this moment in time, this is a relationship subject, not a transactional subject, right? And it means that when it comes down to all of the different touch points where interactions are happening between brands and consumers, there is the need to understand that, yes, when that purchases is happening, when that specific interaction is so focused, this is a moment where your customers will pay the most attention to you, okay? And traditionally, this was a moment that was focused very much on monetization. Now, what we are seeing and what is really getting traction within the market is that you need to have a new kind of thinking these days, because you are moving from a moment where all your efforts are concentrated to a sequence of moments, a range of moments where you need to do equally well towards your customers, right? And achieving that when the number of channels where these interactions can happen is growing incredibly, where the format of those interactions is also growing incredibly. And when you have technology that is coming up that is about to completely change again the way that those interactions take place, think of 5G that is just around the corner and how that will certainly have a huge impact in terms of what kind of content, in terms of what kind of experience brands will be able to provide to their customers. There is an incredible need to find very consistent ways and orchestrated ways of making all of those experiences sum up in a way that the whole is greater than the sum of all parts, right? And when we look at that, we need to have a plan, right? And that plan is also interesting in the sense that it needs to be something that in a way comes with some sort of industrialization, or but at the same time also brings specificity, because every brand, it's its own brand, every brand has different needs, different customers. And remember, ultimately we are looking for a high level of personalization, a high level of relevance in all of those interactions. So what does it mean is that we have actually mapped out all of the different capabilities that we are seeing being extremely relevant to eventually push ahead irrespective of where you sit today in terms of maturity, but to push from potentially having no commerce capabilities at all, but being in what we call of a total commerce state. Okay, we have a dedicated slide about that, and essentially what you would be able to see at this moment. I'm not able to see the slide, so that's why I'm kind of wondering, but essentially what we are doing with that matrix of capabilities is that we are mapping out a foundation for you to set the course on how to get to a point where you will be able to reach that differentiation status towards your customers that allows you to become a leading brand or to reestablish yourself, further strengthen yourself as a leading brand. And so obviously this goes through a whole range of transformation, okay? And thank you, we have reached the slide. And that transformation is obviously technological, it's obviously business, it's obviously people, and there is an underlying layer which is data, okay? So that touches nicely towards our formula and what is Benjamin's scope of the discussion today, in the sense that data, if you want, is the secret sauce that will allow us to achieve the goal of being a company that is able to broadly cover all of the commerce needs for the brands and for their customers.
Thank you, Luis. Really, really interesting. So this total commerce, total connected experience for the consumer, for retailers, and for businesses. So Benjamin, taking this a step forward, how can you actually share, what are your insights and recommendations, and what approach will we take to help brands actually design for data maximization? And also on a more interesting level, why would brands and retailers potentially also do this? What benefits can this bring?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So maybe first of all, I really believe that the amount and the quality of first-party data that you have about your customers, that will be your future competitive advantage. Not only because you will be able to understand your current customers better and will be able to serve them better, but also, and that's maybe even more important, because you can learn from this data about the needs of future customers and how to reach them and how to convince them in the end to do business with you. And I mean, truth be told, this fact about customer data is true for every digital experience that you offer online for a business reason for your customers. To make an extreme example, it can also be for pure brand building reasons. But nevertheless, when customers are about to buy something, and Luis said that before, when they are about to buy something from you, they are most willing to share information with you. And this is exactly the reason why you should build on this willingness to share data, listen carefully, and take a very strategic approach to a data collection. And that's how we call that trend. You should design for data maximization, because really little details in the way you design the user experience can make a big difference in the quality of data that you're collecting. So what do I mean by that? Let me maybe make two examples. So we all know data is most valuable if you know who the data is describing exactly. So you want to nudge your customers to log in on your website, because only then you know who they are and can put the data to their customer profile. So when you design the user experience of the site, offer incentives for logging in. So for example, provide exclusive deals for users who log in, or offer a easier ordering or checkout process for logged in users. That's example number one. Example number two, be super attentive if certain user actions on your website or in your online store have a double meaning. So let's say you have a faceted search on your website. So if users are using the search functionality, you learn two things. Number one, obviously the search seems to be valuable because otherwise they wouldn't use it. That's nice to know, but not what I want to lead to. The other thing that I believe is more important is you can learn from the usage patterns, for example, in what product categories a user is most likely interested in. And this is the data you can then store in someone's user profile. And this is the data, or those are the little details that you should design very carefully when you design a user experience, because the data that you can collect there can really make a big difference in the long run. The question, and I think if I remember correctly, that was the second part of your question, how do you do this? So it's usually not a case where you build your own custom solution, but instead you would go to you would pick a ready-to-go cloud solution. And here we're talking about so-called customer data platforms, or CDPs. Customer data platforms are your weapon of choice to build customer profiles that really consolidate data from all digital and non-digital touch points. And what's also absolutely important, they do this in a data protective way. So for example, by using, let's say, person IDs instead of email addresses as identifiers, or they make sure that data is only used by you in a way that the users actually agree to. Obviously, with GDPR and everything, this is super important nowadays. If you use a CDP, you will reach three things. You will increase the speed of personalization. So how fast you will be able to personalize the experience in your shop. You will increase the relevance of the personalization just because of the fact that you're collecting more and more data with the CDP than you would otherwise. And when you have more data, you'll be able to offer a better relevance. And lastly, you will increase the reach of personalization to more channels, because those CDPs usually come with a lot of interfaces to different digital channels. So yeah, to sum up, as I said in the beginning, I really believe you should carefully plan for meaningful data collection, because ultimately the customer data will give you and your company a competitive advantage. Data will help you to improve the customer experience for your customers, so they will be happier with you. And in the long term, that will also mean that they will come back more often, and they will be a more happier customer that will buy more often from you, and so your business metrics will go up as well. So in the end, it's really a win-win situation if you take a structured approach to data collection, data analysis, and then data activation. And that's the mindset I wanted to get across to you with this trend designed for data maximization.
Thank you, Benjamin. It's really interesting. I think what I love about it is that it's about data, but it's really the insights, right? It's actually leveraging the data and the insights to really improve the overall customer experience. So exactly. Very holistic, connected approach across touch points, really. So, and I think this is a really interesting point, I think, now for brands, but also partnering with e-retailers. It's an industry approach, right? We really need to have an industry approach on this, as well as a partnership to really leverage and bring a connected experience to the customer. So yeah, really, thank you so much. I'd love to jump back to you, Luis. Have you got any examples with our customers of how we've actually been able to put this into action? Obviously, we can't cover everything today that we do, but we'll obviously share more examples at another point in our discussions with you, our audience. But Luis, any particular examples that you could share with us today?
Well, yes, I mean, the examples are nearly endless, right? In the sense that when we recover the idea that there are specific paths for virtually each one of the different brands, we have had many examples where we are actually helping brands going to digital, okay, at the very start of their journey. And this can actually normally be done with very tactical approaches where we would normally just light up one store and work towards making sure that visitors become aware of the existence of that store and therefore drive traffic to that store so that they can start transacting in the digital domain as well. Then we have customers where obviously we are still working on the foundation layer of those commerce related activities and you know, are starting to go through all kinds of marketing activation or service. And then, you know, as you go along that path, that maturity path, we have some that have focused on really driving very exquisite, unique experiences. So you will find lots of examples where augmented reality is taking an important point. This commerce streaming that 5G will enable so broadly, it's something that is a reality also already today. When you look at it, there is also, you know, very brand new technology, but that already brings enough assurance for us to redefine many experiences. And we have beautiful cases around loyalty, which is obviously a very important subject in this context. And then when we focus on this data piece, right, that Benjamin was speaking about, this data piece just makes everything shinier, everything much more effective, right? And that is something that, because it's not so visible, maybe sometimes it will go a little bit under the radar. But ultimately, those companies that are already embarking on this adventure, what we are seeing is that when we are able to also leverage best-in-class products of the kind, we are able to, in average, something like 1.5 to 2 times faster than what would normally be the case before, to achieve business objectives, mainly in terms of revenue generation, that were objectives for 2-3 years down the line. And that happens because the level of personalization, the level of prediction, the level of the experience that these companies are being able to provide to their customers is really making them stand out from the rest. Okay, and then just very shortly, because obviously that is also an important subject to us, there are side effects that are also very interesting, right? So when you think of the optimization of media spend that can be achieved also thanks to this orchestrated, integrated way of thinking, as another important aspect in terms of how brands can further drive their results. Okay, so the results are endless. Happy to discuss about them with a little bit more time, of course.
Thank you, Luis.
Hey, maybe one thing. I'm just having a look at the questions that are coming in, and I realized that I used a term that I should have probably explained. I was talking about first-party data, and Stefan, you asked about what that is. First-party data is the data that you collect yourself from your customers, and that you have the right to use. There's also second-party data and third-party data. So second-party data would be data that you get your hands on because of partnerships that you build up with other organizations or companies. And third-party data would, for example, be data that you buy from third parties. I hope that makes it clearer. And sorry for not explaining it in the first place.
Thank you, Benjamin. And we have time for probably one or two more questions. One of the questions that's come in is, we talked about very much, we work a lot with brands, but could this approach also be used for e-retailers? I mean, e-retailers have a wealth of information, right, on consumers as well. And what are your thoughts, maybe Benjamin, on working with e-retailers and how this could actually help brands working more closely with e-retailers on the data side?
Yeah, so first of all, what we've talked about is true for both brands and retailers. What I think is special about brands is that they can also use the data for other purposes. So they can see data that they collect from their digital channels as some type of customer research, and they might be able to use insights from that data even for product development, because they have that direct channel to their customers. I think this is something that is even more interesting for brands than for retailers.
Yes, very true in terms of what we can do for today. So basically, I think we're running out of time, but there are a couple of other questions, but what we're going to do is come back to you separately. What we'd love to do is talk to you on your specific questions, your needs, your opportunities for your brands and business. What we can do is actually arrange an expert hour for you. You can actually scan this QR code here quickly, and if you don't get it on time, don't worry, because you will be receiving this presentation in a follow-up email very shortly. Also keep an eye out for our commerce trends, which will be published this week. And we'd also love your feedback on ideas, topics that you'd like to hear for our webinars as well. As mentioned at the very beginning, we really are here to help you and guide you on your journey on digital transformation. And also, as we know, it's a really exciting time, I think, for everyone with e-commerce, the explosion, but which happened much more quickly than we thought. So the other thing is, as mentioned, we are Isobar and Merkle. So Benjamin, thank you also very much for Merkle, on behalf of Merkle, and Luis and myself from Isobar. We're so happy to work together with you going forward, and all your colleagues. Keep an eye out. We will, as I said, become Merkle in the DACH region, so Germany, Austria, Switzerland. And so we're here to work with you and your customers going forward. We will be following up with you, and we really thank you for your time and questions today, and we look forward to speaking to you very shortly. And with that, that's it for today. So thank you very much, everyone, for your participation, and to Benjamin and Luis. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.